Hello everyone, welcome to Painting Crafty, and today I'm going to be showing you how you can create a whimsical style Santa Claus. I'm going to show you some very cute painted eyes and then show you how I put it together using a wooden piece from my local Dollar General store and some items that I found at my local thrift store. Today I'm a part of a YouTube collaboration. We have three hosts today. We have Jeanie with Jeanie's Palette, Kristi with Funky Junk Inspiration, and Mary with the Painted Peach. You're going to find the links to their channel down inside of the description box, as well as the playlist for all of the other creators who are participating today. You're definitely going to want to take some time, check out their channels, and also click that playlist. I'm sure you're going to be inspired to create something fun for your holiday seasons. Well, let's go ahead and start. I can't wait to show you this cute little fella.
I found this surface at my local Dollar General store. I thought it was a good size for doing an ornament. It's got a little bit of sturdiness to it, but I was able to cut it easily with my scissors. At first I thought perhaps I was going to be making a tag shape, so I just cut it into a tag. But I decided to just cover that top up anyway, so you can just, if you decide to use this shape, you can just easily cut that off on the end of the bottom part of where it's supposed to hang on a door. Now I do have this crocodile machine. I forgot I even had it. We all buy tools that we think we need to have. And then I finally remembered I had it sitting over there, and it worked perfect actually to punch a hole in there. Because at the beginning I thought I was going to be making a tag, but I used that hole to be able to hang my ornament in the end. Now I wanted to create a Santa Claus, so I needed to create a nose for him, and I wanted to do a 3D nose. So I'm going to be creating what they call a yo-yo. I have no idea why they call it a yo-yo, but I went ahead and cut a circle from some cardstock that was simply a cereal box. That's going to help create the structure for this yo-yo nose, and that will help make this size of it. So once I had my circle cut out, I went ahead and I created a circle of fabric around to be able to do the nose. So here you can see me just doing a simple up and down stitch all the way around and doing it kind of loosely, and I'm going to be pulling it to make kind of like a little bit of a purse shape, I guess would be a good way to describe it. I'm going to be sticking some polyfill inside of there to create my nose, and then sticking that piece of the cardstock or that cereal box shape in there, and then that will help keep the shape of my nose, so it won't pull any tighter than that circle I cut. And that's how you make this little simple yo-yo shapes. Like I said, I have no idea why they call them yo-yos. But it does make a really cute little nose for this Santa Claus. Once I had the nose made, I decided to use a little bit of blush to add the color. These are just blushes that I just happened to pick up at the dollar store or wherever. You can always check out your thrift stores too. Sometimes they have some older stuff that's just sitting there. Inexpensive, easy enough to use, and just brush them on there. I like to use a couple different colors, the orangish one and then the pinkish one, just to add a little bit more color to his nose. Now here I found this hat at my local thrift store. It's made from a fun fur. That's the name I want to say. It's made from a fun fur. So when cutting the fun fur, you want to just cut through the back fabric and not all the way to the fur. And this is going to help give more of a fluffy look. Using those little clickable knives work perfect for this, because you're always going to make sure you have a sharp edge. That's going to be the brim of his hat, and I'm going to put that little nose there. Now this sign did have one of those stickers on the back, so if you use a heat tool works the best, even better than a hairdryer. Just put some heat on it, and it peeled off pretty easily. To create his whiskers, like his mustache and his beard, I had some fluffy yarn that I had purchased at Joann Fabrics a few years back. It's acrylic, it's nothing very fancy, but it is nice and fluffy. So I wrapped that around the shape quite a few times because I wanted it to be nice and fluffy and full, and use that as a template just to figure out how big I wanted it. And then I slid it off, and I chose to tie it with more of a string, not similar to the same color as the yarn. There was a good chance you might be seeing it, so I wanted to make sure that it matched more. So I just tied it tight in the middle and created that loopy look. Then once I had it tied really tight, I took my scissors and I clipped the ends on all the loops and created his fuzzy little mustache and beard look to him. To get it even more fluffy, I took it in my hands and just kind of rolled it and opened up the fibers a little bit more, and it makes the perfect fluffy little mustache beard look. Isn't that cute? So cute. And then that's going to go on the top. But I'm going to paint some eyes, so I was just taking a look to see how far down I would need to be able to put that nose in the beard, just to give me enough room to make sure I have room for eyes. For the back of my piece, I went ahead and used some chalk paint, just in a red color, and I gave it 2 coats to cover up the back, because you would probably see that in the end, or you could, depending on how it was going to be hung or used. I did do the edges a little bit. I probably should have been a little bit more careful so my red didn't go into the front, because that flesh tone paint is a lot lighter, so I should have maybe been a little bit more careful with that, but I'm going to ink the edges anyway, so in the end it looks fine. I created a little bit of a flesh tone paint color by mixing my own. I wanted it to be kind of a rustic looking Santa, so I wanted more of a warm skin tone. So I just applied 2 coats of that and then took my ink pad and inked up my edges and my back. I wanted to add a little bit more of that ink onto the front, just to be able to add a little bit more depth to the edges, and especially around the beard area, because I wasn't for sure how much would be showing there. On the top, in the end, I do add a hat, so you don't really see too much of that, but I did like the way it looked. Now here I'm going to go ahead and measure where my top of my hat is going to be, and create a little bit of a hand-painted face look for him. I like to do these eyes that are oval shapes, and the tops are facing towards each other. They go in, and then the bottoms are kind of out. That's one of my favorite eyes to do, painted eyes. So that's what I'm going to be choosing to use here. But before I make those eyes, I'm going to be blushing on some cheeks. My favorite way to do cheeks is I'm taking a darker red color here. I think I showed you apple barrel color, and I'm blushing that darker red color on, using just a scrubby brush. I also like to rub that paint into my hand, so when it feels dry, then I know I have enough off, so I'll be able to create those nice light shades of blushing. I went ahead and took a little bit of a peachier kind of pink color, and I did the same thing, and I went ahead and I blushed a little bit lighter color just to add a highlight to those little cheeks. Now to go ahead and paint the eyes, I first start with a black paint. I'm going to be using what they call is a cat's tongue brush. It's got a little bit of a rounded tip on it. That's the brush I'm going to be using to paint the eyes today. It does work well is if your paint is a little watered down so it's not too thick. If it's watered down just a tiny bit, it's really going to help glide that paint across your painted areas a lot easier. Remember, you can always turn your piece if it makes it easier to turn your hand and turn your piece. Often we think that we're painting along and we can only paint one direction, and it will help sometimes if you can turn your piece. I'm turning it all the way upside down to be able to pull towards me. The black paint I was using was the Americana Ebony Black, and it seemed to cover really well, and 1 coat was all I needed. I went ahead and dried my eyes because the next process I'm going to be doing is floating a shade of blue in this little guy's eyes. I'm going to be using Bahama Blue, and the floating medium I'm going to be using is the Folk Art Floating Medium. It's more like a gel when you put it on your plate. You're going to run your brush through the floating medium, pick up just a tiny bit on the edge, and then run it back and forth on a surface to walk your paint through your brush. That way it's going to be going from dark to light. Where you want your darkest area, that's where you're going to put the tip of your brush, and then pull it down and across your area, and it'll create that beautiful little shading of from dark to light. It takes a little bit of practice, but it's well worth practicing. It looks great on these little pieces. I'm going to be doing another floating as well. I picked up a little bit of Bra Umber, and I'm going to be floating some of that color on the outside of this eye. You can do it more than once too. You can allow your floating area to dry, and if you feel like you need to add a little bit more color, you can always add another layer. So often it's easier to start slow, do a lighter bit, and then you can always go darker. But this is acrylic paint, so if you need to really cover up a mistake, you can. Just let it dry and start over. You see me often go ahead and rub my fingers on the top areas there, and what I'm doing is just softening my lines a little bit. I'm going to be adding a little bit more character to this guy using a Kimberly 9XXB pencil. I really like using this pencil. It's rather like a charcoal pencil and leaves a beautiful soft line work. Instead of being so harsh with a paint, I have a little bit more control, and I do love that scribbly bits of that looking of what it looks like when you're using that pencil. Here I'm going to go ahead and add my line work this time with the white using my Uni ball pen. This is a great white ink pen, and it works great for putting on these small little bits of white. I like using this pen as well too to do these little tiny lines. It's so much easier to control than a paintbrush for me. Here you can see me deepening up my shadow again. I had let my float lines dry and decided I needed to add just a tiny bit more shadowing, so I went back in and added that on each side of my eyes. He's really starting to come to life by adding all these little details. I wanted to go ahead and add just a little bit of a swirl pattern, and I decided that the Sharpie China marker would be the best for this. It's rather like a soft color crayon. It's a perfect little white to add these little mixed media elements when you're painting. You'll be able to find some links in my description box for some of these mixed media items if you'd like to have them. I ran some jute through that hole to be able to hang it. I glued some striped fabric to the top that I had coffee stained, glued his little top hat on part where the fuzzy part was, and then put the nose and the beard on. All the pieces together make it look really nice. I went ahead and fringed the top by just cutting some slits and then ripping it to give it more of a primitive, rustic, little whimsical look to him. To finish this guy off, I'm just going to be using some little bits and pieces that I have in my stash. These little ornaments are perfect for using up all those little pieces. I wanted to say a special thank you to our hosts today for hosting this collaboration. Definitely check out the link to their channels inside of the description box, as well as click that playlist. You're going to want to see what everyone shares today in this ornament collaboration. I'm sure you're going to be inspired to create something fun for your holiday trees this year. He's looking kind of cute. I do love this little button. I like to add threads to my buttons so they have that little bit of color there. He's looking great. I think he would look great inside of a small wreath as well. Well, let's take a look what he looks like hanging on my fireplace. My fireplace is getting pretty full with all of the other things that I have made so far on my YouTube channel. Go ahead and check out some of those videos to see how I've made them. If you're new to my channel and you like to do art and crafts, come on over and see what I'm doing. I'd love to have more creative friends join me. Hopefully you'll come back and see me again, and next time you'll create right along with me.